Well, hey there, YouTube. It's PD Two Finger, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about my DAW. Now, this is Adobe Audition 3.01, which is super old and outdated. I bought a remote scrub wheel controller, which enables me two button recording, where I can hit record, and then when I screw up, I hit another button, and that will it will stop the recording, it will delete the recording, and it will rewind to this marker, and then with a hit of that red button again, I will be back in recording. So it's two buttons when I screw up. And normally, I would have to go here and hit stop and then delete what I recorded and then rewind and then record again. And that process, like, I've seen not a lot. I've worked with people who operate this way, and their time in between mouse clicks is comical. Like, when I operate the software, I do not see how I could do this task any quicker. I've gotten that fast and really adept at it. I don't touch the input levels. My two preamps and my EQ stays the same, so I adjust the volume level of whatever I am playing through that unit's master volume, and then when I have the tracks finished, I'm able to really quickly edit them, and I adjust their volume levels per track. In the editing, I will go in, and when the track's finished, I'll comp the track down to one track and then adjust it to a common level where I know, well, like, all my guitar tracks sit like about like this. So then in the mixing, there isn't much that you have to do here on the faders. I mix kind of as I go, as I know from experience of going through this process about how loud everything is supposed to be to get it where I want it to sound, if that makes sense. Now, I do a lot of stereo pairs, so you see this panned where they're both panned hard and the levels are the same. You'll see that a lot. But like my EQs, I have one preset for the drums where I scoop out the 80. That's where the bass lives. So the kick drum is supposed to be down over here. The kick drum, thud, thud, thud over here. And then on the bass guitar, I do just the opposite, where that 80 is boosted. So if you have a pair of tracks, you have a bass guitar track, and then here you have your drum track. And you go through and turn these EQs on and off. What you'll hear is just a lot more definition in the thud of the kick drum and definition in the sound of the bass. So the other EQ presets that I use, there's one called treble, and that's like a 6 dB high and mid boost. There's one called smile, where it's like a 4 dB high and a little bit of mid boost and then a little bit of low too. So that smile, it just means like this. Basically this, it looks like a smile face. I call that one smile. And this TB, I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to delete that TB. So those are the EQ presets that I use. I always EQ the drums. I scoop the 80, and I always boost the bass, boosting the 80. These smile preset, I use that on or treble. It'll be on guitar tracks or lead instruments where they're lacking a little bit of definition, and instead of just turning up the volume, I'll do this EQ. And then over here is the master EQ. Blast, what is that? Over here is the master EQ. Most often this is what you'll see is a slight smile, where you're boosting some of the lows and some of the highs. And then in the mastering chain for the mix down, I use this multi-band compressor with this classical master preset, which more recently I've been upping the gain on the high frequency. This is the upper mid, and then, so again, this is reflective of that smile EQ curve. And I mean, it depends. Sometimes the track is bright enough on its own, but if I do need that additional air and high end, this is one of the ways that I can make up for whatever high end that compression is going to knock out, is gaining up some of these frequencies here in the multiband. And then we'll go through and say that we're going to export this as a mix. Oh boy, it's not saving that file. Okay, something I've never seen this device do this. Something is obviously wrong. Let's throw in, what do I got? Something that looks more like a song. So let's say this is what we get from our mix. This is some drums. This is what we would get. Now, my mastering process boosts the decibel level of the track quite a bit. So I will bring it down. This is bringing it down, what was that, 5 dBs? And then I go ahead and run my mastering suite, which is Isotope Ozone 5. And I have a preset that I use on every track. But on a track-to-track basis, I will play with this preset. It can be found here. It's the 4-band master 12AX7 tube preset is what it's called. It has this equalizer here, and this is how it's set. It's a little bit of a smile curve again with the low frequencies boosted, the high frequencies boosted just a little bit, just a dB or two. There's a reverb that I use occasionally. I use the plate a lot. The theater is more like a room. The room is like tiny. The theater is, this is what it's set on, but I think I use all of these really, but for a mastering reverb, I don't like to add a lot, and it's usually under 22%. Now there's a harmonic exciter. This is set on double treble, and you can boost this, and I do. This will add that air. Like if you want more treble on the whole mix, this is how I get that. Just playing with this. Dynamics is the gate, comp, and limiter trio, and this will adjust the threshold. And I do play with that. Depending on the mix. These get remixed a few times before I get what I like out of it. But quite often I'm just running this preset. The stereo imaging expands the stereo effect. If you start upping this, it really gets prevalent. So I do not, if I do mess with that, it goes up that much. And then the post EQ is almost mirroring what we're seeing here, but a little bit rounder. And I will run this. This takes between 35 and a minute and a half to run, depending on the piece. And as you can see when we're done, I'll put the mouse here so we can see that it was peaking out at minus 9 dBs. Now I tend to mix, I tend to yeah, see it went up to minus 3. I tend to push it. Loudness wars, let the loudness wars begin. And then you can do stuff like this for fading in. Or you can manually do your fade in and fade out with the affecting. So that's it. That's my process. As far as what goes in here, I've played with other stuff. I've tried different things, and this is what I find works for me, is using this multi-band compressor. I like this enhance high setting, but it's way too hot. So I use the what's called the classical master, and then I will goose the high frequencies just 1.5 or 2 dBs to bring that effect up. And the final the use of that isotope ozone, that's all that's what I use for quote unquote mastering, and that's been a staple of my thing. I've tried so many different things for this mastering, and I find that adding more or trying like the MSI stereo bus compressor is a really good one. It doesn't like to work. It often fails. It's like it's too new to run with the software. And see, that's the thing. This software will not let you host VST in real time. You can add it later. You can add it in the edit, but you can't run it. This is so old. It just, that wasn't a thing when this came out. Computers weren't fast enough to support that. This is ancient software. So that's the problem that I face, is how old this stuff is. There's something called Presonus Studio 1. Which is a new DAW. And I intend to switch over to that at some point, begin using it. I've watched a lot of tutorials on it. It looks really intuitive and really like once I learned it after tracking on it for a few sessions, that I could get in the swing of it. So my plan is that I want to get some real studio monitor speakers. That's number one. And I want to switch over to this. This is what I really want to do. This has everything built into it. Right now, my setup is so complicated. If I could get a real set of studio monitors and just run everything on a single computer and maybe get rid of all this hardware and do everything in the box, it would really be a lot more comfortable for me, because moving around and sitting on a bunch of stools caused me to be just racked with pain. I was suffering so bad in the tracking of this last album. So if I could do it reclining and do everything on one machine, that would be the goal. But I'm dealing with all this super antiquated hardware, and I have 2 remote controls that work with Adobe Audition, which I'm not sure if those would work. I need to figure all that out and start switching over, just because it's like there's so much cool stuff that's coming out that I'm not able to run, or I'm not using because I can't run stuff real time. So the clock is ticking on this setup, although I don't see any way of me working any faster than I already am with this. Like, I can boogie so hard with this. I can get the work done so fast, and it's so little work for me to get it to sound what it sounds like. If you're familiar with my recordings and what they sound like, there is no other like big mixing process. I do it as I go along. When I'm editing these waves, I make them about the volume that they're supposed to be, and there's just a little bit of fine tuning that goes on for the final mixing. So I think a lot of that, what I've learned, I could apply to the other DAW. And then maybe I could learn some of the things that you're supposed to do and make this stuff sound even better. I don't know. It's weird. I would really like to work with someone who knows what they're doing, or have them tutor me, So, I mean, it is what it is. I can't get super hung up over it because, again, it's just a hobby. It's just something I do for fun. it's not a professional thing. But I thought this would make for an interesting video. This is basically how I do it. I'll look for more of this style content. And I'd love to document the process sometime. You know, show you guys how I put one together real time. So if you enjoy it, please leave a comment, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you again, and peace.